Hello, and welcome to this lesson on what is the cloud and AWS. This topic provides definitions and conceptual overview of what the cloud and AWS are, including some of their most common uses. So the concepts covered in this topic will include what is the cloud, defined, commonly used consumer cloud services, what is AWS, defined, and common uses of AWS. So whenever you're ready, let's click on Next and get started. So first, when we're talking about the cloud, have you ever noticed symbols like these on your mobile device or on your desktop computer? What do they mean? Maybe you know that they mean the cloud, maybe you don't, but perhaps you've seen them and always wondered what they are. For most consumers, for most individuals that don't work in IT, this is probably as familiar with the cloud as they are in terms of how they use or access the cloud. So also, maybe you have heard of or used services such as iCloud and Dropbox, or perhaps heard phrases like store your files in the cloud. Because for most of us, when we're using services like iCloud or Dropbox, that's what we're doing. We're storing our files in the cloud. Now, cloud-based services are very popular and are marketed to us constantly. Most people use them without realizing they are using a cloud service. Again, if you're using, say, something like Dropbox, you are using a cloud service. And even when you use iCloud, even though cloud is in the name, you may not be aware that you are using a cloud-based service just like AWS happens to be. And even fewer people understand what exactly the cloud is. So that really lends the question, how do we define the cloud? What is the cloud that we keep talking about? Well, let's jump to the next page here and take a look. So the simplest way to define the cloud is that it is a computer located somewhere else that you access via the open internet and utilize in some capacity. Now, this is a very simplified definition of what the cloud is, but I just want you to grasp this concept. So the cloud is nothing more than a computer, just like the one you are watching this particular lesson on, that is located somewhere else that you are accessing across the open internet and utilizing in some capacity. Now, that capacity can be anything. It can be for compute power, it can be for storage. Just you are using that computer for some specific purpose. And that's all the cloud really is. It's just a computer somewhere else that you are utilizing in some capacity. I know that seems really simple, but I think people really get confused by the term cloud computing. It sounds kind of really complex, and it is really complex when you get into the details of how it all works. But to conceptually understand what the cloud is, this is really all it is. Now, when we move on to the next page, we can more aptly look at what the cloud is. And here I state more aptly, the cloud is comprised of server computers located in large data centers placed all around the world. So here, when I was defining the cloud as basically a computer like the one sitting in front of you, although that could technically be true, more often than not, or basically all the time, the cloud is made up of server computers that are in large data centers placed all around the world that you access. So, and again, a server computer is just like the computer that's sitting in front of you. It just serves a different purpose. So instead of a desktop computer, there are server computers, and I'm sure you may have seen pictures like this before where you see these what are called racks, and there are servers in all of these racks, and they make up what are called data centers, which are basically just large collectives of server computers that are doing some sort of computer processing, some sort of purpose to somebody somewhere. Now, when we talk about cloud, it just means that there are these data centers with these server computers that you are accessing across the internet and utilizing in some capacity. So when you use a cloud service such as iCloud, Dropbox, or Amazon Web Services, you are just utilizing server computers owned and managed by those companies. So that's, again, all cloud computing really is. There are companies out there that set up these data centers with these server computers. These server computers have various features and services on them that you as a consumer access and use in some capacity. That's it. That is what cloud computing is. So that then begs the question, what is AWS? So now that we have a simple understanding of what the cloud is, how does AWS fit into all of this? So AWS, or Amazon Web Services, is a cloud services provider, or also known as Infrastructure as a Service, or IaaS. So if AWS is a cloud services provider, what are the services that it provides? Well, first and foremost, it provides storage or computing power or access and use of databases. But wait, there's more. Also, things like networking, analytics, developer tools, virtualization, security. So, even though as a consumer, you may use Dropbox or iCloud to store your music, movies, and files, cloud computing services such as AWS offer so much more, right? You can set up your own web servers, like I have right here. You can set up your own networking and security, like I have right here. You can set up your own analytics and monitoring, which I have set up here. You can set up your own virtualization and security, which I have here. And we're going to get into all of this as we move through this course, and we're going to understand all the various different services and features offered by AWS as a cloud services provider. So again, even though most consumers will just use cloud services as a means of storage, there are so many different ways in which we can utilize cloud computing to do lots of different things. So again, just to recap, the cloud is nothing more than a computer located somewhere else that you are using in some capacity. And Amazon Web Services is a cloud services provider, meaning they are providing that computer located somewhere else that you can use in some capacity. So that's the relationship between what the cloud is and what AWS is in the cloud industry. And with that, we will conclude this lesson. Thank you for watching. You may now move on.